Aviation fans, welcome back to another episode of Imperial Diecast, and today we'll be taking a look at a 1/500 scale Boeing 727-200 in the livery of Northwest Orient by Herpa. I had previously reviewed an American Airlines 727-200, but it had Herpa's OG landing gear, which isn't a big issue on the larger wide bodies, but on the narrow bodies those wheels definitely felt a bit off. While this is a newer Herpa which has the scale-accurate landing gear and thus looks a lot more natural, as you're about to see. So here we have the packaging. As you can see, this is a real picture of the plane. And then up here it says Herpa, and down here we have New Generation written. Now, this is Herpa catalog number 503143. If I can get this to focus. Nope, it's not focusing. Oh dear. There you go. Okay, so it's part of the Yesterday series. And at the back, we've got the specifications saying that it has a wingspan of 32.92 meters, a length of 46.69 meters, and a height of 10.36 meters. And I believe this was a Herpa Wings Club exclusive back in the day. So you had to be like subscribed to that magazine or something to get it. And this is model number 3064. So it was a limited release on top of it, which it obviously also says here. So let's unbox it. I managed to find this for 10 euros, which is an absolute steal for New Generation Herpas. And here it is, the 1/500 scale Northwest Orient Boeing 727-200. While Douglas had the DC-9, Boeing had the 727, which is one of the few narrow-body trijets. I think the other one is the Hawker Siddeley Trident from the UK, and of course the Soviet Union's Tupolev 154. 727s entered commercial service in the late 1960s, and for the next 30 years they would become widely used for short-haul flights. This is the Dash 200, which is longer than the Dash 100, and far more of them were made because of that extra seating capacity. As for the carrier, this 727 is in the livery of Northwest Orient, which is what Northwest Airlines called flights that operated across the Pacific Ocean, connecting American cities to those of East Asia like Tokyo and Manila, but also Honolulu from 1947 to 1986. The 727s, of course, being short-haul planes, operated domestically. In fact, it was a Northwest 727 from whose aft stairs the infamous D.B. Cooper jumped out of in 1971 and was never seen again. We'll start our review at the port side of the aircraft at the L1 door. And you can see that we have a porthole, although it's kind of in the middle. Maybe it's supposed to be a little at the top, I'm not sure. And then we have a little number underneath the cockpit windows. I think these are the last 3 digits of the registration. We've got the Northwest Orient titles, along with the symbol, or the logo. And then we've got the window line inside the blue trim. We've got the 2 emergency exit doors here. And then we have November 298 Uniform Sierra as the registration. Here's the L2 door. And then we have the T-tail of the 727 in the red Northwest color. Here at the top are the plane's horizontal stabilizers, and you can see that we have the elevators in extra detail, along with like additional flaps, so that's nice. So if we want to take a look at the wings of the plane, I think they have a really good amount of detail on them because you can see that the flaps, slats, air brakes, ailerons are all carved very nicely. And on top of that, we have three different colors here. We've got like the gray in the middle for the wing, and the slats have silver leading edges, and the flaps are also in a different color, so that's nice. Taking a look at the engines of this narrow-body trijet, these are low bypass Pratt & Whitney JT8Ds, and engine number 2's air intake is an S-duct, just like on the Lockheed L1011. And taking a look at the front of the plane, you can see that we've got a black radome, as well as eyebrow windows, typical for the Boeing 727s and 737s, although there are no cockpit window frames. And otherwise, there's not much else in terms of detail here at the front. And here's a look at the other side of the plane. And this being a new generation Herpa, you can see how small the landing gear is. So it sits very nicely and hugs the ground. And you can see that we have the separate nose gear landing doors, or nose landing gear doors, there you go. And we've got cargo doors as well, so that's nice. And then we have a little bit of extra detail for the APU, if I can focus this. There you go. So you can see it's got a little bit of extra coloring. And now if we take a look at the bottom of the plane, you can see that it says Herpa here, and then we have like a NACA duct, maybe for a ram air intake. Unfortunately, here at the back, the aft air stairs have not been printed. But we do get some extra detail in the form of these trailing edge fairings. So yeah. Now for comparison, I have here another plane in a Northwest livery, and that's the McDonnell Douglas DC-10. And you can see just how massive that wide-body trijet is compared to the narrow-body trijet. Although in terms of length, I would actually say that they are not too far from one another. But obviously when you have an extra aisle and like a third more seats, I think you can carry about 70 or 80 more passengers. Now, of course, the old landing gear makes the DC-10 ride a bit higher than it is supposed to, but otherwise these two planes definitely look nice together. The Northwest Orient livery, I think, also precedes the later bowling show livery that the DC-10 is in. If you're a fan of the Northwest Orient livery, I have to point out that this Herpa is, in terms of detail, inferior compared to the Starjet's Northwest Orient 727, because it doesn't have windshield wipers and also lacks the landing lights as well as the emergency escape route arrows on the wings and markings for the aft stairs. But keep in mind, the Starjet's Northwest Orient is a 727-100 and not a 727-200 like this Herpa, so it has a shorter fuselage. So if you want a -200 Northwest Orient, then this Herpa is the one to get. But if you don't have any 727 and want one, I would definitely recommend the Schuco Starjet's Northwest Orient 727-100 over this Herpa Northwest Orient 727-200. But if you already have this Northwest Orient 727-200 and are looking for a -100, then instead of getting another Northwest Orient, I would recommend getting Herpa's Northeast 727-100 instead, simply because it's an airline that otherwise has very few models. And if you're a fan of collecting vintage airliners, then you might as well include a Northeast Airlines in your fleet. You can watch that review of mine here, and as always, guys, take care, have a wonderful day. This is Imperial Diecast, signing out.